We hear a lot of perspectives on the Mankind podcast. Inclusion of a guest is not an endorsement of their views, and the opinions expressed here do not always represent the mission or values of the Mankind Project USA.
What does it really mean to hold space for ourselves, for others, and for the collective transformation we long to see in the world? Hey, everybody, it's Boysen. Welcome back to the Mankind Podcast. Today, I have the honor of sitting down with Rhonda Schladand, a somatic healer, a life coach, and a longtime leader in transformational group work. Rhonda is a creator of the Games We Play workshop and a co-facilitator of the Holding Space leadership training, an affiliate of the Mankind Project USA. It's a program designed for those ready to step into leadership with more presence, more vulnerability, and embodied awareness. In our conversation, we go way beyond titles and techniques. Rhonda brings a grounded wisdom that emerges from a life of curiosity, of service, and deep listening. We talk about trauma, not as something to be fixed, but as something that shapes how we show up in our bodies and in our communities. We talk about the old paradigms of leadership, what it means to move from controlling and performing to simply being with. And we talk about the village, about elders, about grace, and about how to lead in ways that make space for the full humanity of others and of ourselves. So if you're longing for more authenticity in leadership, and if you're tired of binaries and ready to step into complexity with an open heart, this conversation might be for you. Welcome to the Mankind Podcast. Hey, everybody, it's Boysen. Welcome back to the Mankind Podcast, the podcast where we set out to prove, and I think we're doing a pretty fine job, that there is more than one way to be a man. Today, I get the pleasure and opportunity and honor to be sitting with Rhonda Schladand, who I have known by reputation as a leader in the Mankind Project's programs, including the Unpacking Power, Privilege, and Difference. And we're also going to be talking today about a course called Holding Space. Rhonda, say hello.
Hello. How are you? Good to be here.
Thank
Very
you.
good to be here.
Thank you for
invite.
taking the time. Yes, I appreciate it. So let me tell you a little bit about Rhonda. Rhonda Schladand, LMT, is a certified life coach and has been a somatic healer since 1994. Somatics are something we're going to be talking about today. Trained in the Hakomi psychotherapy and matrix group work, she is a Hellinger family constellation facilitator and trainer. Rhonda has co-developed the Games We Play workshop, which educates people about the drama triangle. We'll probably talk about that today. And co-creative group work, which teaches about the power within a group to heal. As a co-founder of the Center for Visionary Studies, she's been able to develop and educate how to support change and challenge each other to live lives of integrity and authenticity. Thank you for being here. This is so cool. So we're going to be talking about leadership a lot today, I think.
Yes, we are.
So first of all, let's go backwards. You have some creds. How did you get into doing leadership work? How did you get into doing the work that you were doing? When did you know that you were this kind of leader?
Okay, so I could go far back, right? I could go to my childhood and I could talk about having a dad who pushed and pushed and pushed, and you had to find your own voice. I could say it was growing up in sort of a privileged class. You know, we had a driver, we had someone who took care of things. I could say it's being a Black woman from the Caribbean where we speak our truth and say it out there, whether it's the truth or not. But I think it really hit me when I walked into my first Al-Anon meeting. My husband had, Tim Schladand, my partner, had stepped into the recovery mode. And I walked into my first Al-Anon meeting and my first codependency group. And I started to see that my voice wasn't really my voice. It was about the stories I'd been told. Ooh. And I wanted in my 22 years old to find out more about myself. Yes, yes. I made a decision. I said, I don't know what I'm saying. And I had to, to find a way to speak from a place of knowing and wanting to learn and curiosity rather than what I was told I was supposed to be. So on that process of going to a lot of meetings and doing some service work, it was incredible. My husband went to MKP. He came back. I liked what I saw. I decided a couple years later to try Woman Within International. So in that process, I was learning a lot about wanting to do more somatic work, which was not the term at that time.
Right.
It was mostly, the term was woo-woo. The term was woo-woo work.
Good.
You intuited it. It came from somewhere.
Right.
And that is actually very natural to me. Maybe it's because I come from a country where we talk about obia, black magic, and all that stuff. So woo-woo didn't seem abnormal. I kept finding my voice. And it's an interesting thing when I say that I'm speaking about how I speak. So when I moved to the United States, my accent was more islandy. You can hear it a little bit. People wanted to understand what I was saying. And in the process of doing that, I had to really become deliberate. And I kept hearing my father's tone and my mother's calmness. And I really let myself relax into it. So that was my first part of leadership. And as we went on, I started doing massage therapy. I said, I want to touch people. I want to do something holistic. And in Louisville, Kentucky, there's not much here.
Yeah.
It's a lot of paganism, but not a lot of holistic work. So knowing me, I became a massage therapist and instantly became an educator and became the program director of the school. And started educating. And in doing so, it forces you to find out who you are. When you touch people, when you decide that you want to be a part of that, you run right stab into your codependency, my rescuer, my want to fix, my want to be, my want to find my, my worth in others. And that didn't feel good inside. And that may have been the beginning of understanding that there is this wealth of information that's in my body that I wanted to tap into. Terrified me.
Yay, shadow work.
Exactly. Started doing that, a lot of different trainings, going to California. Nothing is in the middle of the country, I find. It's either in the East Coast or the West Coast. Started doing that work and met these wonderful people in Jinshindo, which is a form of acupressure, cranial sacral therapy, and then found Steve Schumacher, who was my guru, and got into Hakomi, which is a body-centered psychotherapy training, and Matrix Works, which is about the group dynamic, and just kept training and loving it and immersing myself in it, and then bringing it out to others. And what I found out, Boysen, is that when you hit the so-called top of the proverbial mountain, that's when the real work begins. And that's why I'm tapped into leadership.
Tell me.
We think it's climbing to leadership. It's really being at the top.
That's beautiful. And that's beautiful. When you get to the top of the mountain, that's where the real work begins for. So from this space, I think maybe we can at least touch on, we're going to introduce it and we'll come back. We'll circle around to it again. Holding space training is a training for leaders holding space for leadership.
Yes. So Michael Bonahan and Rick Bronick asked me to come into the fold. They were doing some work and said, we want to do a little bit around holding space. And it was through the Unpacking Power privilege and difference. And it's something that I teach people what to do, which is stay curious. Notice what's happening in your body as you become curious, but most of all, get a sense of what is there that really wants to innately heal without me having to do anything. And that takes a lot of holding space. That takes a lot of internal chatter happening all by itself. At the same time, I'm aware that that's happening for others and that the answer is in there and none of us know what it is unless we become more and more mindful. And leaders need that. Leaders need that even more now than ever. You know, the idea of a binary conversation or an either or even a golden shadow to the dark shadow it's all just binary, right? And leadership is all about staying in that open space and helping ourselves hold on to what needs to happen all by itself.
This is a really great conversation. So here we are. We're like 10 minutes into the conversation. And first of all, the impact in my body is, oh man, I want Rhonda to lead something that I'm a part of.
I love that.
And so from 22 years old, the reflection that you became aware of this other part of you that was driving the voices. This is not me speaking. These are these messages. And I have had a definition for intuition that I had written in marker on the wall in the space where we used to hold our integration group, our I group meetings. That was intuition equals keen observation plus deep self-awareness.
Exquisite.
And that's what you're speaking to.
Yes. Yes.
And that is a leadership skill.
It is a leadership skill. It's, in my opinion, the hardest one to do. The hardest one because, and what I mean by hard, I mean that there's a lot of self-care that has to happen for us to give this gift, to be a part of this gift and to receive it from others. So when I can train someone to hold space for another, I am in this bigger pool of connection and belonging that it encompasses a whole level of vulnerability I never expected. And this wonderful thing called trust, which we won't go into that today because that is a continual life journey for me.
Learning to trust, being able to be in trust. Thank you. Yeah, I hear that. And maybe, we might go into it a little bit. Why do you think that this idea of holding space, as we're kind of discussing it, is so critical for leadership today? Why is it more important than ever?
Well, the obvious things that I don't want to go into, but I have to, we see the world more about this and that, either or, who's up, who's down. And systems were created for that, right? Who's in, who's out.
Power up, power down. Yes.
Power up, power down. And the intention of how we discuss things or how we are each other always have an agenda. And the agenda is always what I believe the agenda should be. I desire to be in a group where I'm listening to everybody's agenda. But if I'm really, truly honest, and if we are beings of survival, we are meant to get our food, drink our water, and defend ourselves. That if I know that is my primary connection to conversation or to being in space, then I shut myself off for any other possibility. And right now, I see that a lot in the world, in micro ways and in macro ways. And I think right now, this is more important. We have so much more communication out there. So many ways we go into fast attack. Right? I mean, I'm even talking in my body. I'm so excited. I love this connection we're having right now. And my body's all excited. And I want to talk really fast and put everything in one container. And so I'm noticing myself do that because I'm so excited. Mm-hmm. And then I'm feeling myself say, just slow down, Rhonda. You got 30 minutes with this man. We're going to talk a little bit more. And what will happen will happen. And I have no idea. And so I think that if we can step into that a little bit more in ourselves, we can begin to listen to ourselves in a different way than either or, this and that. Um, I do a training that has to do with diversity, and I watch myself take the system and try to amend the system that I say is not correct, right? And or I become the same binary person, or in other words, I become the persecutor of the system myself. So I look at things in a way that I think right now we need to just stop and see how we need to make our containers more malleable, permeable, right? And watching ourselves and how we respond to everything from a reaction.
I notice similar things in my body occurring as I speak to you as well. Oh, I want to go there. Oh, I want to go there. I want to track that.
Yeah.
So why is this conversation critical right now? Because it is so much easier in some ways to get magnetically attracted to an either or.
Yes.
In everything that we're doing. And
yes.
What happens in your experience leading in containers like this, leading in these spaces, when those who we are leading or those who we are teaching begin to let go of that run to attack or defend in their bodies? What shows up?
Yeah, I see a lot of, and I'm a body person, so I will see it first from a body. I tend to see people lean back a little bit. I tend to see, even now on Zoom, thinking on camera, would I really see what people are doing in their bodies? But actually, much more so. There's a relaxedness that is felt. Less words, maybe sometimes, for those who speak too much, and more words for those who speak too little. There is the ability to create more of a circular conversation in the group where everybody has a say and people are noticing when other people aren't speaking. There's a gentle nudge or what I call a bid for connection. Yes. There is conversations that teach me about someone more personally, that have more of an equality of good, bad, indifference, and surprise. All of the feelings come into play. Like there's happiness, there's joy, there's grief, there's fear. All of those things are there, and then out of that there's a surprise, and the whole group taps into the surprise. And it's different for each group because we're not the same wherever we go. Right? It's the collective of the group that makes us who we are in the moment. And that's the power of holding space. And that's where I see we can trickle down, for lack of a better term. We can resonate, where we can make a connection in the world. So that's how I see it. That's how I feel it. And those are the words that come up for me.
That's how it shows up. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Very intentional use of language. But Rhonda, leaders are supposed to lead. Leaders are supposed to be decisive. Leaders are supposed to be, out in front and charging forward. Leaders are supposed to be, I'm going to use some systemic language, bending others to their will to get things done. And here we are talking about woo-woo and leaning back and circular conversations. Like, how is this leadership? Is there a distinction between old ways of understanding leaders and leadership and new ways of coming into empowerment through this kind of frame?
Yeah. Well, Boysen, I think you answer that question. I love what you just said. It is a binary way we've kind of lean into that. I have to have the answer. And I go back to that rescuer, perpetrator kind of thing. I call the rescuer in the drama triangle the good perpetrator.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right? It's like, oh, yes, I'm going to rescue you. I'm going to look good and make the perpetrator really bad now, right? I'm going to find my way. Ooh, this is juicy. There's a concept where leadership has been really scoped down. I think about all the different leaders in tribes, like the leader of the elder, the leader of the warrior, the leader of the crone, the leader of the lover, right? The leader of the mother, the leader of the father, just the leader of the person, and they all sort of fit in a space wherever it's needed to nourish other leaders. My job is as a leader is to help other people find the brilliance of their leader in them. That's another level of leading to me. I see leaders in everybody. And in that world, I want to get to, and this is my want, to get to a place where I see all the elder women, my tanties when I was growing up, and they would sit out on the veranda without whatever bush tea, and they were talking about things that were big, and they were doing it in a way where they all had their space, they all had their kingdoms, they all had their way of seeing things, but there was no sort of dispute. There was more like, child, don't talk like that. But there wasn't any, I have to beat you up to get to the other, I have the answer for you. I don't know if I'm answering your question, because I just feel that I can have certain answers for you, but that sort of mutuality of that, and you have answers for me. Yeah. At the same time, teaching something. Some of my best students have been incredible leaders, and they're leading a whole lot better than me right now. And I appreciate that I've been with them. And they will always say it's one or two things that I said or I taught them in a way to access something they never thought they could access in their body, because they had these stories about who they are supposed to be in the world that opened them up to whoever they are today.
Thank you.
If I can see another leader 50 years from now and they say, hey, long time ago, you said something, and I'll go, I have no idea what you're talking about. And they say, I remember you. All right.
Yeah, there it is. How does the holding space training kind of wrap some of these concepts that we're talking about in? What's the process that you take leaders through to help uncover some of this stuff?
Yes. Well, it begins in the mindfulness. So getting prepared for everything we bring, and then tapping into the part of us that we don't claim, right? Not just the so-called bad things, but the also so-called good things, and how we manage around the stories we have told ourselves about ourselves. And then we start to tap into which ones we tend to lean on more than the others, and become curious about, maybe I should lean into this adaptation a little bit, and that it did serve me and does serve me. And that from that, I have a leadership quality. There's something that it taught me about leadership, that I can meet someone who has been victimized. I can meet someone who's felt joy. I can meet someone who's felt heartbreak, because I know that in myself, whether I liked it or not. And then we deep into trauma, trauma-informed language. Again, that used to be called woo-woo too.
Yeah, right.
Right? But we have words for that now. And we have research that supports that. So we talk about how to see the trauma in the group playing out. Now, easy way to say is in conflict, but it also shows up in disappearing, in speaking too much, right? In being activating, in checking out. These are all trauma ways that we work out in a group. We tap into that. When difficult things occur, we first tap into our trauma, and then we try to lead from that. We don't want to do that. We want to notice, oh, this is about me and what's happening in my body. Is it's a response to the other person, which is of course mirroring or reflection, right? So that's how it goes. And then, we have small groups to talk about it a little bit more insightfully, and then come back and talk in the bigger group. And it's really a beginning. It's a beginning holding space workshop, because we do live in a society now that, short burst of time. When we do workshops, it used to be we'd emerge in a workshop for 3 weeks. Now we have to keep it 4.5 to 6 hours. So we just have more workshops, right?
We just have more things.
What's up, everyone? Now, here on the Mankind Podcast, I talk a lot about building physical health, emotional resilience, but lately I've been thinking more about mental wealth. Those daily deposits that keep my mind clear, calm, and creative. And honestly, one of the easiest shifts I've made has been adding Magic Mind into my mornings. Magic Mind is a mental performance shot that helps me kick off the day with intention, without the spike, and without the crash. It's packed with clean, natural nootropics and adaptogens like lion's mane and ashwagandha, the stuff that's been backed by science and used for centuries. Now, what I've noticed first was focus, but what kept me coming back was how even my energy has felt all day. So if you want to get your hands on this stuff and give it a shot, head to magicmind.com and use the code MANKINDMAY. That's MANKINDMAY for 20% off your first order. Links will be in the show notes. You got to get your hands on this stuff. You will not regret it.
I assume, and I'm just going to invite this out. So when I think about understanding being trauma-informed in a space, being trauma-informed in a leadership space, I'm also aware of kind of Resmaa Menakem's understanding of how there is bigger cultural traumas that are infusing the spaces that we're in. So Menakem talks about racialized trauma that shows up in the space. And I'm also reflecting on, and that crosses into genderized trauma that crosses into space, and all the issues of class. And how can leaders today be thinking about that stuff in a way that is more holistic than getting shoved into the binary that's kind of out in the culture now? Is like, is it woke? Is it not woke? Right?
Yeah. Well, woke is, the wokeismness that's happening now, or the antithesis to that, is just going back into a different binary.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So this is where the body comes in, Boysen. I love this conversation. I'm going to get really slow with this, because this is what happens when I don't have an answer and I want to have an answer. The idea is to open my mouth and speak. So I'm going to be very transparent. So the first thing is to be transparent. A lot of feelings come up for me with that question. A lot of feelings of hope and wanting, desire. I want to be alive when that happens. When people get to be just themselves with each other. I'm hoping for that. So all of that is happening in me right now. So that is beautiful to me, because something inside of me is like, oh, wow, I'm being fed here, right? I believe that this pushback is just fear. It's terror. It's like, who are we if we take down all of that stuff? What do I do? Where do I get food? Where do I get water? I like my little boxes, right? So my body is opening up and not being transparent. I'm noticing too that I'm losing your question a little bit. That's my trauma. So I'm losing the question. So I'm noticing, that's my place. If I don't know, then I go to what's happening? What do I catch up? So I'm going to slow down a little bit more in front of you and just breathe into that a little bit more. And then feel myself. And in a group of leadership, I will share that. So this is unknown, right? I have answers to your question. We do this, we do that. I could lead with platitudes and information and, but my ancestors are speaking to me now. They're just in bated breath going, please do it different. Do what you have to do, but know we're behind you. That's what they want for us descendants, is to be in that murky place, trying to figure it out, holding space with each other, knowing that we're all humans in a scary place, not knowing what's going to happen. I am a very, very competitive sports person. And I remember when I wanted to ride a bike the first time, jumping on that bike and falling down and feeling so bad about myself, and almost stopped myself from getting back on the bike. Wanted to go into fear. And I think that, back to your question, which I really don't have an answer today about, but simply to say this: I cannot and will not stop getting on the bike, holding space, even in the places where I hate it the most. Because I believe, and I trust, there's that word, I trust, that being transparent and not knowing, and knowing that I have myself to lean on, and my ancestors, that I can take a breath and forge forward. I do that better in a group. I'm not very good at doing it by myself, because then my trauma shows up. And so that's why I believe in holding space and leaders and being in a container, not of like-minded people, because that's too easy, but of everybody. So there is my answer for today.
That's what arises in this moment about this thing.
Yeah.
And I think there is opportunity and hope and terror in that space.
Yes. Yes, there is. I truly believe that, Boysen.
Yeah.
So what happens for you when you say that?
Similar. I mean, so hello, everybody on the podcast. So what you didn't see, and I like to describe what happens sometimes. So I'm sitting here with like a tear running down the side of my face, and the witnessing of you, Rhonda, in what came across your face as you kind of just sank into the calm of the question, the openness of the question. And I think that that's so difficult to do these days for a lot of us, and for a lot of reasons. I just heard Trevor Noah. Are you familiar with Trevor Noah?
Oh,
yeah, of course.
I adore him.
Right. We adore him. I just heard Trevor Noah speaking on a podcast with someone else, and he was talking about, this incredible thing that we were supposed to get from modernity, and that they brought to the villages, and they told us that this was going to be great. And what they did was they took away the village.
Yes.
And so now we have to buy all the things that we were supposed to get, that we are entitled to, that it is our birthright as human beings to get from the village, which is the auntie sitting on the porch.
Yes.
Which is long silences, which is, don't say it that way, but it's with love. It's from the God in me sees the God in you kind of space of connection. And I think that we are, and tell me if this feels true to you in some place, it feels like we are on the edge of some sort of tipping point.
I agree.
where folks are starting to say, whoa, this just didn't work. This whole, like, I love my iPhone. Great. Here we are on, using technology to do this. And that's all beautiful. But we have lost the village.
We have.
And in me, in my body, the longing for it is so deep and so real that, like, this is what's needed in the world.
Yeah. It's interesting how we have systematically isolated ourselves over time, and how social media is really taking a lot of the blame for it. And as I see the tears in your eyes, I feel met there, because I think I was growing up and I wanted to take my village with me.
Yeah.
And I was told I had to get up, go do it. Then I get to this top of this mountain, and I thought Buddha was sitting there on the top of the mountain, and that's what you do. And then you just give it out. And I totally forgot about my tantis. Like, Buddha's on the mountain with a lot of other people. It never occurred to me that, we're all there on the top of the mountain in some way, shape, or form doing our thing. And so, yeah. So, and what you show me in our connection, which I'm so glad we did this, and I love your tears. I can hear the ancestors. It's easy to forget. It is easy to remember the trauma of our past and our ancestors. It's harder to remember they also give us so much, and I think through leadership, through being there for each other, for cultivating leadership in each other, because what are we leading, really? We're leading our legacies. We're leading, what are we leading? And how do we want to be with each other as we continue to lead? And how do I not let the trauma in my body take over my response, instead of teach me that all of our traumas can really heal in a bigger way if we just stay in with each other and not isolate each other by putting each other in boxes. I mean, I'll watch myself do it. Oh, this is a difficult participant.
Yeah.
This is a good participant. It's all trauma. It's all about how I'm met. So if I'm not feeling good today around conflict, I'm going to, as a leader, work around it, work away from it. If I'm going to be that kind of leader, I'm going to hold space for that and say, is there something for me? Is this right here, right now, showing me that I'm meant to be here and lead in this way? To have empathy, to have compassion for myself first, so I can be present as a leader for the other.
Yeah.
That's what holding space is for me.
Thank you. Here on the Mankind podcast, proving that there's more than one way to be a man. In your experience, I believe that there's ways in which men have been socialized. Many of us have been socialized so far away from the action and behavior and being that you're speaking to. Are there pieces that you would offer to say, hey, there's kind of like, hey man, it's okay. And you might want to look at this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. I love that question, right? So one thing comes from me when I hear that question as a woman sitting here, like, oh, you're asking me a question. How do I answer it? From a binary perspective, from a woman perspective, from a empathy perspective, from my father's perspective, from my brother's perspective, from my nephew's perspective. So I'm going to just say this from an empathetic way. We ask this question a lot. I notice men define themselves as how not to be a woman, not to be like a woman. Like that's how the binary was formed, right? I find that really sad. I find that an opportunity, So I love the question of how do you be a man? Well, if the response is to take the trauma away of what it's like not to be a woman, not to be born a girl, but to be born a boy and what that means to you. If you could imagine there's feminine and masculine in that, but not in the way of sexuality or sensuality, but just more in the way of woo-woo, intuition, awarenesses. And even though the brain of a man is different than the brain of a woman, that there is space and learning in both those places, that I believe that men have this wonderful, insightful way of going right to the core of something because nothing is in their way. And I love that. And I'm just asking, in some cases, just breathe when you say it. Don't let go of your directness. Don't let go of your chutzpah, but just hold space, hold space. Whole space. I'm going to say this 100 times. I could say whole space, because I imagine how much holding space needs to happen in those places, for a man, because maybe you're at the top of the food chain when it comes to sexism, but you also have your trauma, right? Now, the binary response would be to say, well, you're a man, you can do it, but that's not true, right? The system created us.
Yes.
We didn't create us. Yeah. I don't know if I've answered your question, but I just believe, Boysen, that we are all on the precipice of some way, and this way of holding space for each other versus having the answer for each other, but for leading us to just push ourselves individually to another level of being aware. And then to tolerate, oh no, I'm not ready for that yet. Or I'm going to try it out. It didn't work, then that's going to have to be okay. Can it be okay?
Yeah.
I believe so.
I heard a very brief piece, and I'm not going to remember her name. Rachel, the capacity expert. Yes, it's a social media, Instagram. Rachel, the capacity expert, who said resilience doesn't happen in the individual. Resilience happens in the community.
Yes.
And that's the only place that we can build it.
Yes. It's the only place surprise is. It's the only place creativity is. It's the only place that can hold toleration, endurance, perspective. And it's the only place that the immeasurables of love, balance, compassion can sustain itself. And I'm a leader amongst leaders, and some of us do things differently. But I believe we all want to be in that place. MKP, Woman Within. I mean, how many organizations there are all over? How many nonprofits are doing exactly that?
Yeah.
Trying to lead people to be not just their best selves, but to be their full selves. Have that wrong. Not my best self, my full self.
Nice. Thank you. So the final invitation, because it just appeared to me, is so offer us a word about grace in these spaces.
So you're talking about a word that I know is an essence of how, that I came in with, grace. And you know how you do all those value pieces where you say, what's your values? And one of the things I always tell people, my values were seen by others before it was seen by me. Yeah. Grace for me is being in the moment. Grace for me is, it's tender. It's open. It's scary. It's allowing. it has a fear in it because it has so much hope in it. I would say that I thought I didn't trust people and I didn't hope. But the truth is, it's because I trust and I hope so much.
Oh,
And so it's an allowing. It's an allowing.
Rhonda Schladand, how come we've never had this conversation before?
You never asked me, and you finally did. You know, and Boysen, it was the time.
It was the time.
It was the time.
And, you know, maybe we have been having this conversation
yes.
for the last 20 years or so.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree. But for you and me, this was the time. I truly believe that.
Thank you.
You have no idea how your tears has reached me. Because with that, I feel my tears were welcome with you, and my heart was welcome with you. And that will resonate with me for the rest of my life. That I know.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Look, so I'm not going to put it on Rhonda to know all the stuff, but so Wisdom Windfall is the host for the creating convening organization for the holding space training. Look in the show notes for more. Do you know the Wisdom Windfall web address off the top of your head?
Wisdomwindfall.com.
It is. Okay. Good. Look in the show notes. Learn more about Holding Space. The Holding Space training is an affiliate of the Mankind Project USA. This is a great place. If being in a space like that to learn that kind of presence is something that calls to you, then this is a call. Thank you, Rhonda.
Thank you, Boysen. Appreciate you.
This has been the Mankind Podcast, produced in association with the Mankind Project USA. And of course, I want to thank you, the listener, because through your attention and your support, you make it a heck of a lot easier for us to let men out there in the world know that they are not alone and that there is more than one way to be a man. And if you've been enjoying the music throughout this episode and all of our episodes, check out Jim, Donovan, and the Sun King Warriors. I have links to them in the show notes. Now, the fee for this episode is simple. If you found gold and insights that you believe could benefit your loved ones and those you care about, be sure to share it with them. And of course, remember that life doesn't happen to us, it happens for us, so long as we rip the pen out of fate's hand and become the author of our own story. So my friend, pick up the pen and we'll see you next week. Lots of love.
Hey, it's Boysen. On the Mankind Podcast, we've brought some incredible guests on to talk about the importance of doing the work to improve our mental and emotional health. And here's the truth. Multiple times over the last 25 years, I've had the help of one-on-one work with some amazing therapists. For me, for my wife, for both of us as adoptive parents, and for our kids. The Mankind Project and Men's Group, though awesome, are not a substitute for professional mental health support. And so I'm thrilled that the Mankind Podcast now has BetterHelp as a sponsor for the show. BetterHelp works online. It asks you what you're working on and then matches you for live one-on-one sessions with a licensed therapist, someone trained to work with you, listen, and offer helpful insights. I'm using BetterHelp. It's super easy, and I like what I'm getting. If getting one-on-one support in the comfort of your own space feels like a good direction for you, I invite you to check it out. Go to the link in the show notes or betterhelp.com/mankind. And if you sign up, you'll get 10% off your first month of therapy.